Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Smoke and Speed podcast. For those of you that came back, those of you that it is your first time listening with us, welcome. This is something new that we're trying because of the whole situation where we're not allowed to be doing any gatherings lately. So we decided that we were going to be calling and talking to any member, any aspect of the industry, whether that be a promoter, announcer, videographer, photographer, pullers, racers, show trucks, shops, you name it, we've got them. Today, we're going to be talking to a ProStock puller. Tomorrow, which is Sunday evening, 7 p.m., we're going to be talking with Bob Conrad from Gear Jammer magazine. Monday, we're going to be talking with Mario with his safari truck. And then Tuesday, we've got Denver Gedge, who is a phenomenal announcer. Can't wait to speak with him and listen to the feedback that you guys have and to actually hear what he has to say. If you guys have any questions, any comments, anything like that, let us know. Hey, you're doing great. Hey, we'd like to see this. We'd like to hear from this person. Whatever, you call us, let us know. Tell us what you want to hear, and we'll be sure to do the best that we can to get whoever you guys want to talk to on and ask them the questions that you want to ask them. I appreciate you guys keeping the spirit and the passion of motorsports alive while we're kind of stuck in the situation that we're stuck in. But don't delay any further, and we'll dive right into today's podcast. And today we're going to be talking to Jon Manns, who has a ProStock pulling truck. He is from New Park, Pennsylvania. How are you doing today, John?
Good. How are you, Sarah?
All right. Hey, listen, just wanted to reach out to you and get a quick interview from you. I know you're really, really busy, but I wanted to get a quick interview from you, some of your fans, and touch base, find out your plans, a little bit of history about your truck and your pulling career and stuff like that. So I'm going to dive into that and get a little personal, if you don't mind. So for those that don't know, tell us a little bit about your truck.
So I got the 3.6 I run the East Coast Point Series. Got a 3.6 ProStock diesel four-wheel drive truck called the Crazy X. It's a 96 F350 Ford body with a Cummins power plant in it.
And
cut tires, close to 2,000 horsepower.
And you actually did, when you went from 2.6 to 3.6, you actually had to do quite a lot of custom work to that truck, right?
Yeah, I mean, we, over the years, we've just found things that we wanted to change and do differently, and you always learn as you go. So even now, the chassis setup that's underneath of it, I'd love to redo it all again if I had the time, but it just doesn't work. But yeah, we took a year off in 2018 to mainly get the motor built, and took the time to do the chassis right, redid everything, and it turned out good, and it worked out good this year.
And you said you have a Cummins power plant in that. Is that a custom engine? Did you build that? Did you have it built by somebody?
Yeah, that's Hazley Machine did that. It's a 6.7 24 valve build. They're fairly new to the 24 valve world. Seems to be the route that everybody's going nowadays. But it worked out good, and I'm happy. And it's actually out there right now. They went through a couple things just to make sure we're good to go for next year, and hopefully if this Corona stuff goes away, we can go out there and get this engine and get ready for the season.
Yeah, your first pull, as far as I know, it's coming up. It's May 9th, right?
I think it's May 2nd down in Greensboro, Maryland, down the Eastern Shore.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hopefully we get to do that.
How long have you been pulling for East Coast?
East Coast, I've driven for 2 years in their point series. I drove another truck in 2018 and then drove my own in 2019. We pulled with them here and there back when we were on the 3.0, the DOT class. But 2 years of dedicated points running.
So what made you decide to jump up from your 2.6 truck that you actually did excellent with its last year as a 2.6 truck? What made you jump from the 2.6 class to the 3.6 class instead of going 3.0?
Well, we did run 3.0. We ran 3.0 smoothbore for the last year, and was actually given the opportunity to drive the ranch hand truck, if everybody knows that truck, um, in 2017 at an event, and just the way the horsepower is one thing, but the way those cut tires react to the tracks, and it was just got hooked immediately. And I said, I can't go backwards. I got to go up there.
Right.
You know?
Right. And East Coast currently doesn't offer a 3.0 class, so you decided that you wanted to go full bore 3.6 and follow them, and you're pretty dedicated to them now. Now, do you guys pull elsewhere throughout the season? What's it like in a points chase with a series at that level? Traveling around, having to add up the points, having to make sure that you save your truck for those events and that sort of thing. What's it like being in a league like that, chasing points for that caliber?
Honestly, it's a little overwhelming. I mean, we love it, but we live and breathe this year. We between me, a couple friends, and my father, and really my whole entire family, that's all we do all summer. We don't go on vacation. We don't do anything else. It's between the money and the time that it takes to get this thing there every weekend. It's a little overwhelming, but it's definitely rewarding. I mean, the East Coast Series puts on a heck of an event every time. Everywhere we go, it's always very professional. This next year's schedule, we got more hooks on it. I think we're close to 20 range for the year. We have 4 hooks in 6 days, something crazy like that. That we're pulling Tuesday, Wednesday night, Friday night, and then a Monday.
Wow.
And that gets overwhelming real quick. But that's the best part about it is the dedication, and that's the other reason I went up to this class is the dedication from the rest of the guys. Those guys are there week in, week out. Whatever they got to do to get those trucks there, they're there.
Right.
And that's what really sells the class. Is a good class to watch. We don't have a huge number of trucks, but we have enough to put on a good show every single weekend.
Right. So actually, I'm pretty excited about it this year because you guys are running the our season closer with us, which is going to be your championship night, I guess. We have your trucks coming, and then we have the ProStock semis coming as well. And that's in October. Is that normally how late you run in the season, or like what do you guys range? You said May 2nd is your earliest. When would you normally be over?
To be honest with you, I don't know how their schedules worked over the years. I know that in 2018, we were into the September range on their last points hook, which we didn't make in the truck that we were running that year. But last year, we were actually done before we left for Shide in August. We pulled at the Buck on, I think, the first weekend of August, and that was it for us with East Coast, which was kind of relaxing because we got to play around a little bit, throughout the rest of the year and traveled. But then again, I'd rather have a consistent. We know where we're going, and we're going to go travel with East Coast all the way till October to your guys' event, and we'll beat everyone that we possibly can be.
Yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like it's a fun ride, especially with you guys. Now, how does the competition level range in your class? Is it normally like you guys are pretty tight, close together? Do you have a couple guys that dominate? How does that normally work out for a class like yours?
I mean, that's what I love about this class, and the cut tires. We have a decently wide range of horsepower in the class. I say that 200, 250 horsepower swing from the top to the bottom, and you can see a truck with less horsepower just get the right rhythm and just take off. And you look at that pass, you're like, ain't nobody gonna touch that.
Right.
It's just the way these tires react and the way you have to read the track. It's different. For me, the DOTs were, if you had the horsepower and you had somewhat common sense on how to set a truck up, it was going to go. These things are very finicky on how you have to drive them off the line. So any given weekend, any of these guys in this series can win. I mean, that's the coolest thing ever. You want to win them all, and we try our best to do so. But I mean, it is cool to see someone come back and right at the end, and you're like, you think you got it, and then someone comes up right behind you and whack you.
Right. That would be pretty cool. So how does the cut tires work on as far as track consistency, now, do you guys prefer? I know I hear a lot of people all the time, they want a certain clay track and it has to be a certain consistency. Now, do you guys pull on different types of material? Can you hook those up kind of anywhere? Or is it, do you actually have like a set dirt that you want to play with?
I mean, everything, especially with these tires, you want a more of a power type track that you hear that word go around.
Right.
Something that doesn't let you move the dirt and pile it all in front of the sled. The big reason is because they just dig so much that, those tires, the harder you spin them, the further they're going to go down. If you have a good material like the Buck has that can hold the tires back, you're going to end up a lot better of a event, more speed going down the track. But the one thing that's nice about our class is that, and they've let guys come run DOTs with us in certain circumstances, but not a points competing truck, because you can't, there's certain tracks out there where the DOT tire, even on a smaller horsepower engine, can outrun a cut tire truck, and it has nothing to do with the driver's setup. There's a lot of variables. We have a lot of things hidden up our sleeve. We're going to try this year on the crappier track, should we say? But that sometimes those cut tires just dig so much that there's nothing you can do to get down the track any better. And that DOT truck just goes, and it just stays on top of it. And them STS tires have always been a good tire for a looser track, and we've seen it multiple times. We saw it, last year at the Keystone event, where the cut tires just couldn't even compete with the DOTs at that time.
Right. What would you say is your most memorable event? Do you have one, or a most memorable season, or what would you say is kind of like been the highlight of your pulling career so far?
I mean, this year was pretty crazy. We came out, we knew we had a motor that was going to make a lot of power, but didn't think that we were going to have the truck dialed in that right. Going to the cut tires on a new chassis, that was a I got to run the night train truck the other year and learned a lot from it, but to have this amount of horsepower and get it to work and hook up was just, it was wild, and we pulled, our first pull was down in Greensboro, down the Eastern Shore, and we took second place behind James Barter, and we went up to the Buck the following weekend. I think it was the next weekend. Mm-hmm. And we went out the gate. We had just laid down an awesome pass, and nobody touched it. And that was the wildest thing. Second pull of the year, second pull on a brand new truck, and just beat up on, the best, most competitive 3.6 trucks in the country. I mean, I'm not scared to claim that, and a lot of people know that.
Right.
This group of guys, can go anywhere and beat anybody.
Well, and since you mentioned that, it is pretty much true. I mean, we've talked about that a lot with starting our new 3.0 class this year with that series, and when you think about the best trucks in the country, you think of the trucks that go to Scheid, and we actually have quite a lot. When I say we, I mean the East Coast area, Maryland, PA, Virginia area has a lot of trucks that go out to Scheid every year, and they're always, you see them top 10. And they're very stout trucks to run against. Now, do you and you know what? Also, when you run against those trucks on a regular basis, you all kind of up your game a little bit, and it seems like you guys all help each other out, and you kind of share tips and tricks of the trade and that sort of thing. Do you feel like that's true for the 3.6 class as well?
Yeah, and it's another cool part of it with this group. We pull week in, week out. And when we're at at our points pool, we're there to pull against each other, but we're there to help. Everybody will help. Somebody has a tube that goes flat, and whatever's got to happen in that moment, you're one big family. But when we go out west, it's East Coast versus the rest of the world, rest of the country. It's everybody, we just want to see an East Coast truck out there and win it, or be in the top three, and that's what's pretty cool, is just to be a part of that group, that when we leave outside of this place, we're on a team now to make sure that one of our guys is the top dog. Right.
What do you think would be the closest thing? I know we're not going to reach what Scheid has, but what do you think is the closest thing or the toughest competition event over on our side of the coast. Like, what do you think would be the have to go to event over here without going all the way out there?
I mean, competition-wise, all the events that we have with the East Coast, are always going to be very competitive. I mean, the place like the Buck. I mean, the Buck is a place I grew up at. Started pulling at. So that's still to be one of my favorite places, and it's a close one. So it's not far up the road. Yeah. So I love going there.
And they pack the stands. Yeah, they pack the stands in there too. I think they can seat somewhere. It's between 8,000 and 10,000 people can be there on any given night, which you guys pretty much, it's standing room only. Whenever East Coast goes into the Buck, it's usually like the second weekend of the month. I think this year, second or third weekends. I think you guys are, first one of yours at the Buck this year was May 9th, and then and I think you have four events. Is that right? 3 or 4 there this year?
I think East Coast themselves has at least 4 events. If I think you're right. The ProStock trucks are there twice this year. But like I said, it's more. I'll be up there. Well, like the hot farm class will be up there for a weekend when we're not pulling that weekend, and I'll be right there just helping out a couple friends that I know that run in hot farm, just to be up at the Buck, just to be part of help out. Not that I'm a guy who helps with the East Coast officials or anything like that, but just to be a part of it. Like I said, it's a big family, and it's beyond the classes. That's everybody's there to help anybody they can.
Right, that's pretty cool. There's no truck tractor rivalry like there is when you go to the brush pulls. So.
Yeah, that's the one thing I learned is a lot of the brush pull when you see there's a lot more rivalry stuff down there than there is here. I mean, there's always friendly competition, but that's part of the sport. We're here to win, but it's definitely a lot closer group it's a family.
And that's probably what I was going to ask you, what do you think the best part about running with East Coast is? And it's probably family being number 1, and then competition caliber would probably be number 2, the way you're describing it, right?
Yeah, it's number 1's the friends. These people, like I said, they're all, I don't see them all winter, but when we go pulling, we're together every single weekend, and it's like a family of guys. It's you look forward to every single weekend you get to go out pulling.
Was it easy for you to make the jump into East Coast? Were you welcomed pretty easily into that family? Is it an approachable thing? Like for somebody that's not, say somebody that wants to be part of it, or maybe wants to upgrade their truck or bring their tractor in or something like that, do you think it's a pretty approachable scene for somebody outside to come into, or is it you got to pay your dues and then you join the family type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, paying your dues is doing the time, is showing the dedication and coming to those pools. You ain't going to show up one day and earn respect from guys and never come back again, but if you come in and you show them, I live and breathe truck pulling, and this is all that we want to do, and I dedicate my life to doing this, and you have that aspect in it, and you go in there as a low man on the totem pole, and I'm a nobody, Norm, I look at Norm he's a goddess when it comes to this class, because he won it for 6 years in a row or whatever it was as a points champion. To be able to beat him last year was incredible. But,
that's the Chapter 11 truck, right? For anybody that doesn't know who Norm is, which is probably very few people, but just in case. He's pretty cool. He came to we actually had an event in Pennsylvania that rained out last year. It was on one of you guys' off weekends, and they seem like they're a pretty decent class. I know we used to have them in the Run What You Brung class, and you guys would come if you had an off weekend type of thing. But what is your suggestion, or is it possible, if there was a promoter that wanted to add you guys' class or wanted to have your trucks to it, but didn't necessarily wanted to use it as a points event, is there a way that a promoter could get you guys to come run? Do you offer, do a couple of you or you yourself offer to help out for benefit events, or how do you guys kind of gauge where you go for off points or off season events?
I mean, the biggest thing for us is is the point series. I mean, there's guys that I just think I'd say that, but guys that can afford to go and run elsewhere during the point series. If something happens, they're financially fine to get it back together. For me, it's a tough risk to go out and run somewhere when I've got another 3 pulls to go with East Coast for points, and I'm
Right.
leading the points. I can't go somewhere else.
Right.
We ran into that issue years ago in the 2-6 class at the Buck. At the end of it, we had to not go anywhere because I didn't want to break it and bust it up before the last Buck event. And it sucks, but that's part of it. That's the dedication to the point series and make sure that I'm going to be there every event that I can.
Right.
And
Right.
but it's number one thing everybody knows this sport. It's money. I mean, if you have a promoter who wants to bring in a class, you have to put up a decent amount of money to draw the people out of it. And it's not saying none of us that are in this for the money, but you got to make the trip worth it.
Right.
You got to do something. That's the only way you're going to get guys to come out of their safety zone.
Right. Right. And it's tough too because, for trucks like your caliber, you can't just hook to any sled. You can't hook to you don't want to hook to a stone-boat sled or the old stuff. It's kind of like you really need to have something that's like a class 8 that can stop you, that has the safety equipment and all that type of stuff. And it's tough to know where you're going to go because you don't really want to get in a jam and then make the trip and be like, well, we can't really hook here, and then have to go home. So
yeah, and that's something our sled operators are mostly the same guys, and they know our trucks, and they're awesome at their jobs, and they can set us up. Rarely do you see our sled reset to where we got to change something. They're pretty good about getting us on point, and that's a big thing. I mean, something we learned, that your second pass is never going to be as good as your first pass when it comes to making horsepower. The motors are hotter, they always make less power, and an issue that we struggled with this last year, we decided to drop our test hook, and even though they didn't change the sled, we decided to drop it because we had a hunch that the track was going to get a little bit better, and it did. We actually ended up coming back and winning it, but we struggled to get the motor to start. It was a new struggle for us. The 24 valve setup that we're running, it doesn't like to start hot. Like it half hydrolocks itself up and it doesn't want to run. And we were, dropped our first hook, which would have landed us second place. We had a truck that came out and got us right at the end of the class, and I'm at the start line trying to get the thing to start, and I can't get it to start. It won't even turn over. And luckily I got it fired up, but it was different. It was a scary feeling. So we just gave that up, and we ended up coming out and winning it. So it all worked out, but like that's something that there's guys you can't, if you got a guy that doesn't know how to operate a sled, and every freaking event we go to that we're resetting the first pass out,
right.
and guys that consistently run a point series and they break on the first hook, now they're done.
Right.
So that's we're real thankful to have those guys that know what they're doing about setting these sleds up for us.
Now, what do you look at as, I've heard different numbers from each class. A lot of people want to stop short of 300, and you talk to some of the super stock diesel guys. I actually did have a chance to speak to Shane Kellogg and some of those guys in person. They want a little bit more than 300, so they can let those trucks run out a little bit. So how do you guys gauge do you want to stop before 300? Do you want 300 to be your longest hook mark, or do you guys go a little bit over that? How do you gauge that?
Hey, when you're driving, I want to just keep going. I'll take 400 feet. It's hard on everything. It's hard on the motor. But when it comes to the excitement factor and the adrenaline, it's the further you go, the more fun it is, and the more speed. We were down in Georgia there in the fall, and we went 38 mile an hour, I think it was, something crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and 350 feet, and that was wild. That's where the adrenaline comes into it. There's a lot of chatter on the online forums about this. The tractor and truck pulling needs to go back to the old days, and they need to be a 300 feet and a pull off. The tractors back then, and tractors and trucks, they weren't doing the horsepower, and the engines weren't anything what they are now. It's tough to make 2 passes on them. Every pull we go to and you break 320 feet and we're going to come back and run you again, that's tough.
Right.
I mean, some guys can do it. I mean, and we do it when we have to, but you don't want to have to do that, and especially when you're paying to maintain these things, that's not cheap either.
Right.
And so I like the float and finish, see who can
Right.
go the furthest. I like the further pulls.
One and done.
Yep.
One and done per night. So how does that
work? We
work?
don't need a flag or Dan. I know when you don't have to wave that red flag. I know when to stop.
Right. Right. When I know I have a heartbeat again and it's not racing away, then I'll stop. So how does it work when you go to events like Shide and you guys have to do your qualifying and that sort of thing? Is that a different deal because the heats are so spread out, or how does that work for multiple day events if somebody's trying to schedule you guys or something like that? How would it work for, say, like a Friday, Saturday event and they want you guys to hook, Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday evening? How does that work?
Well, I mean, luckily the East Coast has always been, they set their schedule around us going out to Shide. Shide's been one of the biggest event, in the country for years. I can't remember how long it's been around now, but it's been around long enough that, everybody looks at that as the championship weekend of truck pulling. That's where you want to go and that's where you want to do your best, and we don't have an issue with that. We normally get a week or two break right before it. Like I said, the guys at East Coast are good about that scheduling for that to make sure that we can get ourselves prepped to go out there. Luckily we don't have to deal with the qualifying issues that the 3.0 class does out there. That track and the way the sun beats on it and how big the qualifying classes are. If you're not early in the class, you might as well just put it back on the trailer and don't waste your time. I mean, it's sad,
right.
But that could change. We don't know with this new track at the Wagler Motorsport Park that they're going to host us at, that could change, and they might have a good clay-based track that might hold up a little bit better. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of behind the scenes kind of calculations that go into it. It's not just, okay, there's a pool, let's go hook at it. Like a lot of the brush pulling classes are, or something. If they have your class type of deal, you guys really do a lot of calculating as far as getting your truck somewhere, getting hooked to the sled, what you have to do, and that sort of thing. It's basically a legit performance show instead of a truck pull, which you guys, do you feel that pressure at all that you have to have a good performance, you have to put the show on for the fans because that's what you're getting paid to do?
Yeah, at this level you do. It was a lot easier back in the day when you didn't really care what happened. You were out there for yourself and yourself only, but now we're a representative of PPL and East Coast, and you want to make sure that there's a good group of trucks that are running every weekend. That's what we promote our class, because we want guys to come up here. We need more numbers in our class, and we want a better show every single weekend. That way we can keep around, we can sell that to the promoters.
Right.
I
tell you, I fell in that, I fell into that, I don't want to say trap, but I fell into as a promoter, I was like, you know what, I really want these guys to come run with me, so I'm really hoping that, when I turned my paperwork into East Coast and I said, I really want you guys to come to my show for the championship night. I always have a run with your brown class and always get a few of you guys, but it's pretty much, it's nice for me as a promoter to know that if I hire that class and I spend that money, it's guaranteed you're going to be there. You guys are dedicated. You care about the show. You care about putting the work in, and it's nice for me to know that you guys are going to put in that work like I put in that work, whereas other classes, it might not be that way. You might throw some money out there and it might be, okay, well, you're hoping to draw in enough trucks, but it's kind of like, well, unless one of you has a catastrophic failure, you're going to be there. So it's really nice as a promoter to know that you guys, are like that. Once you get to that level, it'd be nice if some of the other classes were that way as well, as far as points and clubs and things go. But it's pretty much, you guys really look at it as it's a second job for you. going to these events.
Yeah, and it is, and that's it. You can't, a lot of stuff you see, and it works. You put out a big payout number, it draws trucks in, but you can't rely on that. You have to have a dedicated group of guys to be able to, have a reliable class. That's like there's a lot of people that don't see that. It's
Right.
you gotta have that group. Because we're East Coast is a business. They got to sell. If they sell our class to a fairgrounds and nobody shows up, then they're the ones that looked up.
Right.
So they know that they can trust us and our group of guys that they're going to be there every time. We're put on that schedule. If a fairgrounds wants us to pull the same weekend as Shide, I'm going to be here supporting the East Coast group because that is my pulls the rest of the weekends throughout the year. I'm pulling for them. I'm not going to leave and go out to Indiana for a 1-day event or a 2-day event. I'm going to stay home and support what feeds me throughout the rest of the year.
Right.
There's people that want that show, that light, that we got to go out there and do that. But yeah, I want to. Everybody wants to. But these are, if we don't support East Coast and keep a class going here, then, that could fall. We're going to have nothing.
Right. Now, at what point in time did you realize that you needed to give the promoter as much loyalty and as much commitment as the promoter needed to give the pullers? Like, at what point did you realize, hey, guess what? Like, man, this is serious. Like, this is something I have to be there. I have to make sure the truck's there. We have to put on a show. At what point in time did you realize it was more than just, well, if I feel like I'm going pulling, I'll go. If I don't feel like it, I won't go. At what point in time did you really did it hit you and you're like, wow, I got to be there?
It's the loyalness that they show towards us also. The whole entire, all the tech guys, the officials, that they make sure that we're comfortable, make sure that we got what we want, and they show the amount of effort that they're putting in to our class and to all the classes, that you feel obligated. You need to make sure you're there. You're not just going to, you know what, I'm going to ride up the buck this weekend and we're going to go pulling at the buck. It's that's our schedule, and I don't know how the pre-commitment stuff works and all that, but I don't sign up for. I haven't signed up for my East Coast stuff yet. I haven't paid my membership, but they know I'm going to be there. I will be there. So really, the step from the 3.0 class to the 3.6 was the big push. That it's a very professional, well put on thing, and it just kind of fell in place. It's hard to explain, I guess.
If you had a suggestion, now that you've pulled brush pulls, I mean, we've been in the same pulling vicinity for quite a while. I mean, back in 2014, we were all involved in pulling. I mean, that was when you first brought your white and red truck out, and the Ford, and then we've been doing all kinds of stuff over the years. I mean, I've known you for a long time now. What would you suggest at having all those experiences with all those brush pulls and the benefits and all the other side stuff? What would you suggest to anybody out there that's hosting, or a track crew, or tech, or anybody like that, to up their standard to what you guys put forward? Like, how can they raise their bar if they're looking to do that? How can they? What's a couple things that you've noticed that would really stand out if they did?
I don't know how to say this out without it being harsh, because I've noticed it, a lot locally in some events. But the pullers, they put the show on. You got a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I know you guys do a lot of stuff, but without the pullers showing up, there's going to be nothing either. And we get a lot of at the smaller level stuff. There's a lot of pushback, between the tech officials, and we've pulled, back when we pulled in the 2.6 days, we pulled at a national level, going out to Shide and different events. But when we come back home and we get, you almost get treated like Joe Schmo that brought his truck out for the weekend, at the local county fair, and that's tough. because you're like, you almost want to put it back on the trailer and be like, you know what, I don't need to deal with this. I'll just go back home, and you won't have anybody here. So respect the guys coming out to put the show on. I mean, there's a line somewhere. It's tough because you have the Joe Schmo that comes out and pulls on the weekend, randomly. That you're not gonna let him come in and tell you how to run the show. But we've got in arguments with tech officials at a small time little fair, and you're like, dude, like, we travel all over the country doing this. I've never had a problem until I'm here. Like, I'll just leave. Like, I don't need it. I'm not going to deal with that.
Right.
I want to do everything I can to support this sport, but you're being,
Do you think that's why a lot of the bigger guys, it's tough for them to go backwards almost? And I hate to say it like backwards because, as we all know, like I am the big advocate for brush pulls, and everybody has a place and everybody can pull and all that type of stuff. So, for me, it's nice to have everybody that we have come out to the pool, but it's also nice for the fans to see, trucks of you guys' caliber, or the big ProStock semis, and the bigger gas trucks, the 2-wheel drives and stuff like that. Is it tough for you guys to go back? Like, is it tough for you to go back to your roots because it's so different once you're in that professional business world, pulling world, I guess you should say? Is it so difficult to come back that is that why not many of your bigger guys do that, because it's such a difference in the way everything is handled?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, with East Coast, I mean, and any of them out there, when we go out to Shide for any of the PPL events, and even when we went down to Georgia, they don't tech the trucks. We're not going there and teching turbos and checking this and checking that, because the guy at this level, you're not going to be cheating. Yes, last year was a pretty good year for a lot of stuff going on with hitches and a lot of commotion and a lot of rumors. There was some truth to some other stuff, and there's a lot of other more rumors than there were truth. But we don't have to. Our entire group at East Coast, we know that nobody's here to cheat. Nobody's doing something crazy. So we're gonna tech the safety equipment, and we're gonna go on our merry way because we just pulled with you 2 nights ago. That's
right.
How we work together. We know nobody's out here to cheat. Nobody wants to win by cheating. That's not the way this works. And
right.
Like I said, that's when you go down, when you drop back down and try to go somewhere else, and you get a lot more pushback on that. And it's like a comfort level. These guys, they don't know who you are when you show up at a smaller brush pool, but it's just, I guess that's where the problem is that we're used to one thing, and then you drop back to something else. You're like, well, this is a pain in the butt. I'd rather just keep doing what we normally do.
Right. If you had someone there as an advocate for your class, it probably would go a lot easier. Or, for some promoters out there that maybe want to try one class and can't afford a whole professional show, maybe their best option would be to hire one class to come in and then kind of get comfortable with it, and then it's not such a big weight on their funding. You know what I mean? To get you guys in, maybe that would help out some smaller places listening to this, and maybe just get one class in, find out how they run it, and maybe you might learn something and up everybody's game. Because we're all in this pulling sport together, and it would really help if we added some more professionalism across the board to everybody, and maybe a little bit more understanding, and then everybody would kind of know where everybody else is coming from, type of deal.
Yeah, and like I told you earlier, Sarah, I'm not a good talker, and I sound very harsh when I say things, but I want everything I can to help grow this sport. And it's to go back to a promoter who wants to bring our class in separately or draw our class in. If you want our group of guys to come in and pull, let us run our class. We don't need techs. We don't need, if you guys want to check the safety stuff or do what you got to do, that's fine. But we don't need you to come in and tell us, we do certain things. A scale is a big thing that we've run into a couple issues over the years, where scales are different from every track or every event you go to, and we'd have a pretty common courtesy thing with our East Coast group that the first truck across the scale, if he didn't change anything, he knows that he's about the same weight that we pulled the weekend before. That's what we're going to set our trucks to.
Right.
If that scale says 8,100 pounds or 9,000 pounds and we're supposed to be 7,800, that's fine. But we know, and he's confident that he didn't change anything. We're going to go to that number. And we run into issues at pools where that, and that's a big deal. I think it was like a 400-pound swing in an event, and we get down to the scale, and the guy on the scale is being a complete butthole, and telling us what weight we're going to run. I said, dude, that's not the way this works. This is how we do this every weekend. And, it was the lack of communication. Someone didn't tell somebody, and how it was supposed to be handled. And it was fixed, and won't have that issue at that specific event again. But that's the things that we run into. That's what's so nice about East Coast. It's just everything is smooth. There's no issues. You just show up and everything goes good.
Show up and do your job and go home.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool that I think it was you that I asked you at the county fair a few years ago. I said, why do you want to pull East Coast? And you said it's so much better, so much professionalism. It's a big family. They feed you. They go out of their way. We can be loading our trucks up, and they're bringing us something if we left it up at the gate or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it really would be nice if we could all learn a little bit from others in this sport, whether it be learning from other pullers or learning from other promoters or whatever, what have you, just to kind of up the game a little bit. Because if we can all succeed and maybe if we can, as brush pulling promoters, if we can raise the bar a little bit on the safety equipment and the professionalism and correct our mistakes, then we might be able to, it wouldn't be such a culture shock almost for the bigger stuff to come back, swing in once in a while or something like that, because we all would pretty much be on the same page. So,
yeah, I agree with that. And that I had something on my mind and I forgot.
Oh, my bad. I rambled too much. For somebody, last question I had for you was for somebody that's wanting to pull in your class, somebody that's listening to this and they're like, man, I really want that type of atmosphere, or I want to go pull with them, or, I really like that Jon Manns guy, I want to go pull with them. Like, what do you suggest for somebody that's wanting to pull in your class? Do you suggest they buy a truck, build a truck, use theirs, drive somebody else's? What do you think their biggest piece of advice would be to give them?
Probably ought to start with robbing a bank.
He's kidding, kids. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Just
right now, you could probably sell toilet paper for $40 a roll and start there.
Yeah, well, that's a good start. But just watch and learn. I mean, the group of guys. I'm a nobody. We had a good year last year, and it worked out. But these guys that have been doing it for years, Lamar and Norm and Andy Grove, those guys. I mean, they know how to do this, and that's your number one thing is learn how to drive these trucks and how to. Anybody has a bunch of money can buy a truck and go, but making it go down the track, is a whole different story. So you got to have the funding. That's obvious. But if you have the funding, just watch and don't, start at the bottom and watch these guys. You can learn so much from watching and paying attention to little details as a truck goes down the track and how they're driven and how they're set up and how the tires are wrinkling and everything. They're just watch and just listen.
Right. And ask questions. Go up to somebody and ask some questions. Don't be afraid to approach anybody.
Guys, these guys are very quiet and they seem standoffish, but any of them you go up to and talk to, I could be standoffish. Like I told you, this is tough to even talk on a radio thing. But any of those guys, most of them will sit down and talk to you about anything. They'll tell you that every secret formula they got going on there for the most part. If you come up and talk to them.
Oh yeah, and I can probably vouch for that because it's not a lot of people will openly talk to me, but I'm pretty much an in-your-face person, as you kind of know. So I'm coming over to you when I'm talking, and most of them do talk to me, and I don't think that's just because I'm a promoter. I think that they really will talk to anybody about their truck, and little kids come up and take pictures and all kinds of stuff. Like you guys really, it seems like you're there if somebody wants you, and but you're not going to push yourself on somebody to talk to them or something like that.
Yeah. Or you're not going to see many of these guys go out of their way. If someone's sitting there looking at the truck, they're not going to. Most of the time, they're going to run the opposite direction because they're just as scared to talk as I am. You know, they're going to sit back and So you go up and talk to them. Any of them, they're gonna give you whatever information you want to ask. You know, they're all in it to grow this sport. That's what we all want to see. You know, the younger generation almost seems like it's fallen off, but we're seeing there's still people out there that are young that want to do this stuff, and that's cool. You know, I started in those shoes. I looked up to a lot of people when I was younger. You know, thinking, you know, I wish I could do that. You know, and 13 years, 14 years later, here we are, and you're like, never in a million years did I think we were going to be doing what we're doing now.
No.
So if you start somewhere, you got to start somewhere.
Right. Well, John, I thank you for your time. I really do appreciate you talking to us and showing us a little bit more than what we probably knew before about your pulling and your lifestyle and how that works, and how we need to put a show on for people. And if anybody wants to follow you on Facebook, what's it under? Dirty Man's Diesel Performance?
Yeah, you can. Dirty Man's Diesel Performance. You can see on there. We don't post on that much anymore, but you just find me on there.
But you're in all of Eastern Extreme pulling videos and photos and stuff like that. They do have a YouTube channel and a Facebook, so go check that out. All the ProStock videos and pictures will be there. You can see Jon Manns and the rest of his 3.6 pulling companions. So, thanks, John. I appreciate your time, and stay safe out there and all this stuff, and don't work too hard.
Same to you, Sarah.
All right, take care.